This bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Alex Campbell's Menswear.
Tonight on the South Today, Governor-General Dame Patsy Reddy has opened a charity hospital in Invercargill during a visit to the South. Dunedin artist Guy Howard Smith is adding colour to a North Dunedin flat wall. And a French-born potter says New Zealand and specifically Central Otago are great places for her boutique business. Kia ora, good evening, I'm Melissa Barton. New Zealand's Governor-General is currently on tour down south. Her visit included a former pub being transformed into a charity hospital.
Governor-General Dame Patsy Reddy says she approves of the 80s architecture of the former Clifton Club Inn, which is now being converted into a charity hospital for the Southland community.
Well, it's actually a lovely building. I mean, it's of a time, isn't it? It's a period architecture, I would say. But I like the airiness. It's got really sound bones, good foundations, and I can see it being a really lovely spot for people who are coming to seek medical care.
The hospital is being funded through the generosity of Southlanders, and Reddy says the facility is a testament to the determination of Melissa Vining, whose husband died of cancer almost a year and a half ago.
I've been fascinated by Melissa's amazing journey of supporting her husband and then converting what was a tragic situation into something really strong and positive for the community.
Reddy says there will always be unmet medical needs, and charity hospitals such as this one are a good way of contributing to the community.
The more I look into it, I can see that it's a wonderful way for people to be able to contribute, to help in ways. We're never going to be able to cater for all the needs. There will always be unmet needs. And it's a way to enable people to give back and support those who can't afford some of the desperate medical care they need. So it's a terrific project.
With 300 volunteers, of which 100 would be medical staff volunteers, the hospital is set to offer colonoscopy facilities at an estimated operating cost of $250,000 a year. In Invercargill, the South Today.
Those involved in the search for a missing Invercargill man are extremely concerned about his well-being. Police say 68-year-old Raymond Horn has been missing since Monday morning. Since then, a search and rescue team have searched residential areas Queen's Park, the railway tracks, green spaces and the Otapuni stream. He's a resident of Walmsley House, a rest home in Richmond, and police say his disappearance is out of character. Police are also asking residents to search their properties. Horn, who has had trouble communicating due to a stroke, also has limited mobility and is unlikely to approach anyone. A large colourful mural now fills a flat wall at the back of the University of Otago Dental School. Dunedin artist Guy Howard Smith is finishing his stylised image of dentistry students riding a walker on the journey of life.
Dunedin-based mural artist Guy Howard Smith has created this new work on a wall of the University of Otago Faculty of Dentistry for students to enjoy.
I always just look at walls and the environment that it's around. And it's for the students of the dental school, and this is going to be their courtyard, so I like it. While
Howard Smith used a roller and spray paint to create some of the mural, most of it is being painted by brush. Using the image of a Maori canoe, the mural depicts the dental students literally all in the same boat as they immerse themselves in long years of hard study.
So there's got students and the waka together going forward, and they're looking back at this design which is a potama, so that's the steps of knowledge, so some of them are looking back to the knowledge that they've gained and they've taken, and then some of them are looking forward to the bird in flight, which is meant to represent their future.
The work has taken about 3 weeks to bring it to near completion. and is just one of many of Howard Smith's murals that can be seen around town.
Done quite a lot with Aroha Novak as well. We've painted a chin painting on the crown, the big purple man, and by myself I've painted one just down the road, the smoke-free lungs and stuff. But yeah, together we've done quite a few, and I've done a few by myself as well.
The mural is set to be completed by the end of this week. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Police say an investigation into the mass killing of protected seabirds at Taiaroa Head is progressing favourably. And a warning, the following story contains images that may be upsetting for some people. CTV footage showed 2 cars and a quad bike driving into a flock of red-billed gulls 2 weeks ago, killing about 70 birds. Police are now saying they are optimistic of finding those responsible. The Otago Peninsula Trust says red-billed gulls are surface foragers and don't go into town and forage from people. An Albert Town-based potter is taking inspiration from the natural world around her. After arriving in New Zealand, Jaku Vita set about turning her hobby into a profession.
Back in her native France, Jaku Vita, now of Albert Town, began taking pottery lessons at an early age.
And in France it was like, oh, it's a hobby, it's not a profession. You know, classic. And then I did a few things, and then I decided to go traveling and ended up in New Zealand.
Vita says moving to Aotearoa after a period of travelling gave her the opportunity to reinvent herself, choosing to draw on skills gained in France during her formative years.
And I thought, oh, what can I do? You know, you have to dig in your own story to make a living. And I thought, oh yeah, I can now. Nobody's telling me not to do it. And the attitude of New Zealand, you know, yeah, go for it, you know, give it a go.
She's a regular at craft markets in Queenstown and Wanaka, and also sells directly from her website. She's now turning and decorating a plethora of cups, bowls and jugs, but started making small handheld musical instruments.
I started with the little flutes, ocarinas, which I was selling at the market as well. No, they are little flutes in the shape of birds, and they've got 6 holes, so you actually can play music. You can actually play.
Following that start, she then had the opportunity to buy a wheel, a kiln and all the toys necessary to aid her development as an artisan potter. Vitar says New Zealand's natural environment, including the mountains and lakes of the Upper Clutha, influence her work, as well as native birds like tui and piwaka waka. In Albert Town, the South Today.
Still to come on the South Today. Investigations continue after a body was found at Whareakiaki Beach near Dunedin. And we have the latest episode of Global Insight for you, so catch this and more after the break.
You're at risk of developing melanoma skin cancer. You owe it to yourself to have a mole map. Mole map is coming to your area. Phone today to make an appointment. It could save your life.
Ah, TV, our favourite babysitter. But it can be tough keeping up with what our tamariki are watching. Luckily, the Broadcasting Standards Authority has made some smart changes to the classification labels. Ooh! Plus changes to the time of day certain rated shows will air, and awesome new parental lock features, meaning your babysitter's job is safe. Find out more at safeviewing.co.nz.
A poorly maintained heat pump can lose up to 35% of its output. The Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner team are experts. Their specially developed chemical wash is totally biodegradable. Call Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner and get the job done by the professionals.
Welcome back. Investigations are continuing after a body was found at Whare Akiaki Beach near Dunedin yesterday. Police say a post-mortem will be carried out tomorrow. Police are working to establish the circumstances after the body was found by a member of the public. More information will be made available once the post-mortem is complete. The Waitaki District Council has approved nearly $500,000 towards maintenance of Oamaru Harbour's breakwater and sand mattresses. Council has approved $400,000 for breakwater maintenance through a short-term loan from the breakwater maintenance budget. Council has also approved $85,000 for rock work over sand-filled mattresses on the beach north of Oamaru Harbour. The sand mattresses were installed in 2017 but were destroyed by a weather event. In today's Global Insight, Professor Robert Patman says New Zealand's Prime Minister was correct in saying Australia had abdicated its responsibility with members of Islamic terrorist organisations. The University of Otago International Affairs Specialist says both countries need to do more in bringing citizens who have become ISIS members back home.
A significant rift has developed between New Zealand and Australia this week, when Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison stripped a possible terrorist of her Australian citizenship, making her New Zealand's problem. Welcome, Robert.
Morning, Bruce.
Can you briefly recap for us what has happened?
Yes, a dual national, Miss Aden, was affiliated with ISIS and apparently had been married twice to ISIS fighters. Sought to get into Turkey illegally. It was detained by the authorities there, and it's developed that the detention of this woman has been widely reported as a New Zealander, and that drew attention to the fact that Australia has stripped this person of their nationality last year, and that has led to a major row between the New Zealand government and the Australian government, because it now transpires, we know from the Prime Minister of this country, that Ms Ardern had been in discussions with Scott Morrison going back before the period before she was deprived of her citizenship, but nevertheless, instead of working on a joint solution, which the Prime Minister of this country hoped for, Australia invoked domestic legislation, which according to Mr Morrison operates automatically, and the Prime Minister was presented with a fait accompli. But suddenly, what appeared to be a joint problem, a dual New Zealand-Australian national, was suddenly a New Zealand problem. And that, I think, was one of the reasons that the Prime Minister, well, was the biggest reason why the Prime Minister expressed her anger in public at the Australian for, as she put it, abdicating their responsibility.
Has she done the right thing in calling Australia out publicly like this?
Yes, I think she has, because I don't think this is an issue which we can tiptoe around. Cutting these people free, that's terror suspects, does not contribute to improving the security scenario or the security picture for all countries in the world. In fact, New Zealand and Australia have to take responsibility for these citizens who've gone to fight in Syria. They have joined a criminal organisation which has carried out barbaric activities in the Middle East, and they need to be brought home and dealt with here. So I think the Prime Minister is absolutely right to forcefully draw attention to the fact that the Australian Prime Minister seems to be pretending that international terrorism is something that you can compartmentalise and divvy up between international interests and national interests when we know the reality is quite different. Having said all that, I think we also need to walk the talk. We have a Kiwi jihadist who is currently being imprisoned by a Kurdish organisation, the Syrian Democratic Forces. We have shown, I was quite shocked last year when I heard the Prime Minister of this country, Jacinda Ardern, the former Foreign Minister, Mr. Peters, and also the leader of the National Party, Judith Collins, all say that they were in no hurry to bring him home and that he can languish in the Middle East as if it was not a serious problem. That, in my judgment, that is exporting our problem to an organisation which is not even a state and has very little facilities for dealing with it. We have the legal framework in place and we have the facilities. There's something like 6 to 12 New Zealand nationals who've been involved in the Syrian fighting, probably largely on the side of ISIS. They, as soon as we can identify them, they should be brought home as soon as possible, face the full rigour of the law here for crimes against humanity in many cases, and taken out of circulation.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. Catch us next time on Global Insight. Noho ora mai.
And you can watch the full interview with Professor Patman online at odt.co.nz. After the break on the South today, Highlanders coach Tony Brown has named a 28-man side to take on the Hurricanes, and we see what tomorrow's weather has in store for you. So see you after the break.
Welcome to Alex Campbell Menswear. Our 3 stores have no shortage of stock. Check these out. We've got the Dunedin print t-shirts. Check out our zillions of short sleeve shirts. These are crackers. They iron themselves in the wash. Iron cheetah they're called. And there's some really cool polo shirts. Look at all the bright colours. And of course there's no shortage of shorts. This is always one of our brightest corners. Our long sleeve fashion shirts. Jeans, casual trousers, dress trousers, you name it, we have you covered.
Alex Campbell Menswear, it fits.
So if you're shopping for your family or yourself, come and see Alex Campbell Menswear stores. We're full of stock.
A poorly maintained heat pump can lose up to 35% of its output. The Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner team are experts. Their specially developed chemical wash is totally biodegradable. Call Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner and get the job done by the professionals.
If you're at risk of developing melanoma skin cancer, you owe it to yourself to have a mole map. Mole map is coming to your area. Phone today to make an appointment. It could save your life.
Eat me more!
Thanks for staying with us. Islanders coach Tony Brown has named a 28-man side to take on the Hurricanes in Alexandra tomorrow. The match will be the final pre-season fixture before Sky's Super Rugby Aotearoa kicks off next week in Dunedin. Ash Dixon is set to co-captain the team from the hooker's position, with Daniel Lineup-Brown and Saati Takalohi next to him in the front row. Scrum half Aaron Smith is the team's other co-captain and sports the number 9 jersey. Māori All Black front rower Josh Honeck sits amongst a solid Highlanders bench. The first official fixture of Super Rugby Aotearoa is the Highlanders at home to neighbouring foes, the Crusaders, who beat them in a come-from-behind pre-season match earlier in the month. And now recapping tonight's top stories on the South today. Governor-General Dame Patsy Reddy opens a charity hospital in Invercargill during a visit to the South. Dunedin artist Guy Howard Smith has added colour to a flat wall in North Dunedin. And a French-born potter says New Zealand and specifically Central Otago are great places for her boutique business. And now look at what's happening in tomorrow's ODT. Welcome, Hayden. What have you got for us tomorrow?
Good evening, Mel. All sorts of bits and pieces, really, today. We start with the lead in the water issue, bubbling away up there in Wakawaiti and Karatani. And there's a couple of angles coming out. One is, so there was a meeting last night in Wakawaiti, and it was revealed that some residents who have had blood tests have revealed slightly higher than normal lead levels. But the public health officials stressing today that this is nothing out of the ordinary. They were in fact expecting that. If you take sort of 20 or 30 random human beings, 1 or 2 will have a spike in lead for whatever reason, whatever they've been exposed to. So the one message is they're saying it's not unexpected, they're not massively worried. Another big public meeting next month where they will canvass all of the people who had their blood tested to see if there's anything actually going on. So still plenty happening there. And also tourism. Tourism is an issue that's not going to go away for a long time.
I was going to say, what tourism?
Exactly, the impacts on tourism. And today the report finally out on the sort of sustainability of tourism. The report that was actually commissioned pre-COVID, which is interesting. Simon Upton's been leading it. And some interesting things in there around a departure tax, for example, across the country, bringing in more revenue, about environmental concerns, and I guess talking about how we, the intensive tourism industry that we've had pre-COVID, can we return to those days given the impact on the environment? So we've got some local reaction, particularly from Ground Zero Queenstown, which just has its fingers crossed for the coming months and years for COVID to get sorted and the tourists to come flocking back. But will the tourism industry be a little bit different than before? So that could be interesting. Yeah. Big story out of Invercargill, of course, is this clash between the Burt Munro Challenge and the Waimumu Field Days. Confirmation today that the Burt Munro Challenge are going to stick to their original dates. So next year, believe it or not, the two biggest days on the Southland calendar are going to be clashing. So we've talked to the Burt Munro Challenge about that. Not the Field Days people, they don't want to speak to us right now, which is a bit of a shame, but interesting and some big questions about how Southland people will deal with that. There are a lot of demands on the place in terms of accommodation. So
it's a shame that they couldn't work together on that, because they could have spaced it out, and it's going to help out Southland no matter what.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know what happened to just sitting around a table and planning these things out. But anyway, all that and all sorts of other interesting bits and pieces, I'm sure.
Okay, lovely. And you can catch all of that in tomorrow's ODT. And now it's time for a look at the weather.
Tonight's weather proudly brought to you by Mole Map.
Starting with today's southern view, looking across a Dunedin stunner of a day from near the top of York Place. Looking at the situation, many more days of high pressure will bring a fine spell to the region till about Monday or Tuesday next week, with temperatures becoming quite warm inland. Starting off at the northwest of the South Island, sunshine with a bit of cloud and light winds here with 21 degrees in Greymouth and similar in Westport with 20 degrees. Moving to the east, where it's sunny with a mix of cloud and light winds here as well, with 23 degrees in Nelson and a decent 27 in Blenheim. Moving down to Canterbury, sunny days with fine weather here as well. Again, a bit of cloud and light winds with 22 degrees in Kaikoura, 24 in Christchurch and 25 in Ashburton. Moving to the southern towns, light winds and fine conditions for all here. With 23 degrees in the Catlins, winds tending to be northeasterly here, 25 in Lunston and Gore, and 24 in Balclutha. Moving to central, light winds and fine weather here as well, with 28 degrees in Queenstown, Wanaka and Alexandra, and 21 degrees in Te Anau. Winds will tend to be westerly in Te Anau with some cloud. Moving to the northern towns, light to moderate easterlies and fine conditions with 24 degrees in Timaru, 22 in Oamaru and 29 degrees in both Twizel and Amarama. And in Dunedin, fine and cool tonight with a low of 7. Sunny and mild tomorrow and Saturday with moderate northeasterlies. Looking at a high of 21 and a low of 8 tomorrow, and similar on Saturday with a high of 21 and a low of 9. And in Invercargill, clear and cold tonight with a low of 7. Fine and sunny tomorrow and Saturday with milder temperatures and light to moderate westerlies. Friday sees a high of 22 and a low of 8, and it's similar on Saturday with a high of 23 and a low of 9. That's all for our news this Thursday. For the latest news from the southern region, head online to odt.co.nz or follow Channel 39 on Facebook and YouTube. Thanks for joining us. Ka kite anō.
This bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Alex Campbell's Menswear.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.